Yesterday marked exactly 2 years since President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga had the famous handshake at the doorsteps of Harambee House. And on that day, Kenyans were really shocked because very few Kenyans had even expected President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga to call each other, leave alone having the handshake. Because by that time, Kenya was divided right in the middle. And President Uhuru Kenyatta had been sworn in as the President of the Republic of Kenya. And Raila Odinga had also sworn himself as the People's President. So Kenya was divided right in the middle. And those who were supporting President Uhuru Kenyatta believed that Uhuru Kenyatta had won the elections. And therefore, bringing Raila Odinga on board was not necessary. They wanted the full loaf of the bread. On the other side, the allies of Raila Odinga believed that Uhuru Kenyatta stole again the elections. And the fact that they had sworn in Raila Odinga, they expected Raila Odinga to start collecting taxes in NASA stronghold. And Miguna described it in a very funny way, that they were going to remove all the portraits of President Uhuru Kenyatta from their strongholds. And they were going to have a carnival of activities where huge bonfires were going to be lit to burn all those portraits. And in my life, I've never seen a charged crowd and a charged citizens the way I saw in that particular elections. So when Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga had this handshake, Kenyans were shocked. And as a matter of fact, the allies of Uhuru Kenyatta refused to accept the handshake. On the other side, the allies of Raila Odinga also refused to accept the handshake. But along the way, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga pushed on with this handshake. And with the time, Kenyans slowly by slowly started embracing the handshake. Then, boom, came the Building Bridges Initiative. And that Building Bridges Initiative has really exposed the deep divisions within Raila Odinga's camp and President Uhuru Kenyatta's camp. And in my view, I want to believe that it is because of the deputy president and his deputy, the deputy president and his allies. I believe so. It's because of the deputy president and his allies why Kenyans are really confused about the Building Bridges Initiative, about the handshake, and about the Big Four agenda. So basically, the narrative about Big Four agenda, the Building Bridges Initiative, and the handshake has been lost. And why have we lost it? Or let me put it bluntly, why has President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga lost the handshake narrative to the deputy president and his team? Because let's face it, the deputy president, from the moment Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta had that handshake, he never supported it. He knew that Uhuru was bringing Raila Odinga, and Raila Odinga was either going to destroy Jubilee or Uhuru Kenyatta wanted to extend his term. And from that moment up to today, he has never believed in that handshake. And because he has never believed in the handshake and because he has a 2022 presidential ambitions, he had to craft a way of dealing with that handshake, dealing with the BBI and even the Big Four agenda. But how has he managed to achieve this? Or why has Ruto won the handshake narrative? In my view, because of the following. Number one is clear lack of leadership. In 2017, this country was going to collapse. The NASA brigades were willing to go to any length to sustain President Uhuru Kenyatta, to sustain the rebellion against the President Uhuru Kenyatta's government. Up to today, I don't know how this country would be. On the other side, the allies of those who supported Jubilee also believed that Uhuru won, and they were going to rule by force because they had the state power. And because of that bitterly contested election and the bitter division witnessed in this country, there was need for President Uhuru Kenyatta to take leadership of the handshake. I want to ask you a simple question, and I want your honest answer. Do you think President Uhuru Kenyatta has done much to market or to support the handshake? I don't think so. Because Uhuru Kenyatta is the president of the Republic of Kenya. The moment Raila Odinga accepted the handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, that's the moment he ceased being the people's president. So it was upon President Uhuru Kenyatta to provide leadership. From the time handshake took over up to January this year, President Uhuru Kenyatta never exhibited or provided any leadership to this handshake. In fact, the division in Jubilee Party can be attributed, in my view, to President Uhuru Kenyatta's lack of leadership. I think the president believed that because he had the state machinery and he had central Kenya behind him, then automatically these guys were going to support the handshake. Take, for example, what was wrong with President Uhuru Kenyatta convincing his deputy that we've had a handshake with this guy. But this handshake is not about 2022 elections. Let us divorce 2022 elections from it. Instead of doing that, either the president just continued pushing on or the DP refused to listen to his advice. And because of that, we are currently in a situation where if you ask anybody, the difference between handshake, the difference between BBI, and the difference between Big Four agenda, they are not able to explain. They are not able to explain. In fact, I totally want to blame the president. Raila Odinga on his part has tried, because most of his allies, apart from the rebels, have told their lines. Even most of his supporters, even if they are not happy with the handshake, most of them have not expressed it openly. So the president has not provided leadership. That's number one. Number two is the electoral justice. When Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta had the handshake, there was a reason for them. They both acknowledged that there was a problem in this country. And that problem was electoral injustice. It reached a point in this country where Kenyans were now saying there was no need for Kenyans to conduct elections. In 2017, Raila Odinga supporters voted, in 2007, Raila Odinga supported for Raila. And indeed, Raila won in 2007. I don't want to talk of 2013 and 2017. In 2007, Raila Odinga won the elections. But despite winning, he never sat on that seat. Then again, we went to 2013, 2017. Again, if you ask Raila Odinga supporters, they'll tell you they believed he won. So these guys were supposed to make electoral justice as a priority. Today, the IBC commissioners who are accused of bungling the elections are still in office. What are they doing in that office? And that's probably the reason why NASA supporters are not very happy with this whole handshake. They believe there's something in it. Forget about the IBC officials. Is there any mechanisms which is being put in place to ensure that if you go for election in 2017, in 2022, that election is going to be free and fair, so that we don't have monkey businesses like what happened in 2007, where places which registered 20,000 people, like Tarakanidi, then ended up having 60-something thousand voters. Voted, 67,000 people voting. How are we going to solve cases like in the last election where we had ghost polling stations? How are we going to address them? That's what NASA supporters are asking. And because it's not coming out clearly, still, they're not happy. So the narrative is being lost. why this BBI, why the handshake took place. Number 3 is the state of the economy. When President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga had this handshake, the moment they had the handshake, they told Kenyans that they had 9-point agenda. And they convinced Kenyans that those 9-point agenda were going to address all their concerns, be it unemployment, be it corruption, be it national ethos, be it shared prosperity. But the state of the economy has continued to go down. The state of the economy. Why? The war on corruption. Nothing much has been achieved. If anything, it's now clear that it has been weaponized. So there's no way these guys can convince people that they are doing something. Talk of the 4 agenda. The housing, the universal health care. How far have they reached? They have not told Kenyans that the problem we are facing today is that this country overborrowed when Uhuru Kenyatta took power in 2013. That is going to take them time to clear that mess. They have not able to explain to Kenyans that because we had corruption entrenched as part of life in this country, a lot of money was lost. And we had so many projects which are burdening the taxpayers. They are not doing that. So in my view, what these guys need to do is to come up with a team of experts which can explain to Kenyans. Because if Uhuru Kenyatta entered this handshake, it means he must be willing to accept that his government in the last term failed. Because if you ask me anything they performed in the first term, 0. Corruption was a way of life. So he must be ready and willing to allow the expert to explain to Kenyans that the problem we are facing in this country was as a result of the mistakes committed in 2013. It's not because of the handshake. The handshake is simply trying to fix that. But because we know the state of economy today, William Ruto and his allies can easily go to Central Kenya today and tell the people of Central Kenya that you don't need peace. What you need is the price of coffee to go up. How? If the country is not exporting, how will we increase the price of coffee? So I think the state of economy is playing a big role in that. Number 4 is what I can call 2022 politics. And this again, I must blame it on President Uhuru Kenyatta. Sometimes I blame him. Maybe I could be right or I could be wrong. Because probably he didn't provide the leadership. And that gave room to politicians to start speculating. And in this country, there are only 2 things which unite the country: politics and scandals. These scandals are immense type. They really unite this country. If President Uhuru Kenyatta had provided leadership and convinced his deputy that 2022 politics will come and go. Let's focus on this BBI. I'm sure even by today, we would have had a referendum, or we would even be thinking of implementing some of these things through parliament. But maybe they had their different ideas. And because Uhuru Kenyatta is not running and the DP is running, the DP read sinister motive. So after reading the sinister motive, then he went to the people. Remember, after the handshake, Uhuru forgot everything. As a matter of fact, Uhuru Kenyatta now started becoming healthy. Uhuru Kenyatta grew in weight and he was relaxed. He could drive in town. Uhuru Kenyatta could walk freely. He could go to Mombasa, enjoy himself in the sunny beaches of Mombasa, accompanied by the ODM governor, Hassan Joho. So he forgot about this other thing. And when he forgot about this local politics, the DP was going down there convincing the people who voted for Jubilee that this handshake was about 2022 politics and that Uhuru was trying to betray him. And that gave rise to the suspicion. You go to NASA, Raila Odinga went to this handshake alone as Raila Odinga. And remember, the first promise of noisy, messy divorce with casualty came from a NASA principal, Moses Wetangula, after that handshake. Though Raila Odinga later tried to meet Kalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula, Musalia Mudavadi, but it was late. These guys just agreed to support the handshake, probably because they had no option. And what matters was, it ended up in a situation where the senators rejected the leadership of Moses Wetangula and he blamed him on Raila Odinga. So the 2022 politics, which the deputy president is running away with that narrative, took the narrative from the original intention of the BBI, of the handshake, and even the Big Four agenda. And because we're in a country where people like making mistakes, in fact, Kenyans, normally when they go to polls, they leave their brains in their houses and walk with an empty skull up to the polling station, they vote, then after 2 days, 1 week, or 1 month maximum, they start complaining. Not only at the presidential level. You go down to your village, you'll realize that the MCA who was voted there was voted overwhelmingly. But after 2 months, nothing. I like giving people the example of my home MCA, somewhere in Nyakach. I don't want to mention him, he's a friend of mine. This guy was elected. Then after he was elected, overwhelmingly, I went to funeral. A shemeji of mine died and I went to a funeral there. Then the guy who led his campaign came there and started hitting this guy. And I asked him, are you mad? Why can't you even let this guy take an oath of office? So it means the expectation of the chief campaigner was so high. And it's all over. Today in Kisumu, people are really complaining about Governor Nyong'o. Why? Because Kenyans don't go to polls to vote in leaders. We go to polls to vote out leaders. I hope you're getting me. I want to give you an example. Jubilee supporters, or there are certain people in Jubilee who will go to polls and vote for William Ruto. Not because they believe in William Ruto, but they'll go to vote for William Ruto to punish, for example, Raila Odinga. The same to this other side. There are people who will not go to polls to vote for Raila Odinga because they like Raila Odinga. They'll go to vote to punish someone. And a typical example is of that of David Ndii. David Ndii will always be in any camp where Uhuru Kenyatta is not in. Why? Because of their past mistakes, their past and family problems. You know, they are related in a way. And the Gatabaki family, where Ndii is married, is fully behind Uhuru Kenyatta. So I don't know why Ndii is always anti. So that today you'll expect him to sing the praises of the DP just because the DP is now opposed to Uhuru Kenyatta. So if the DP, for example, will start working with Uhuru Kenyatta, Ndii will start now hitting him. So that's Kenya for you. In the last election in Kisumu here, Kisumu Central, for example, there were people who went to the polls not to vote for the current member of parliament, but they went to vote out Ken Obura. That's exactly what happened in most of our places. So we go to polls, we make those mistakes, then we continue. Then lastly, I think the Building Bridges Initiative, the BBI team, has also failed in their communications strategy. Today, if you ask any Kenyans what Building Bridges Initiative is, their mandate, what it's supposed to achieve, why it was formed, they'll not tell you. Why? They don't know. Probably these guys believed in state. state machinery. So they've failed to explain to Kenyans the finer details about the BBI. If you want to understand this, just listen to any debates. Like yesterday, there was another one on Citizen TV. And you could feel clearly, people don't really understand the difference between the Building Bridges Initiative, the Handshake, even the 9-point agendas. They don't even understand that Big Four agenda was what Jubilee Party promised to deliver, what Uhuru Kenyatta promised as his part of his flagship project. So the Building Bridges Initiative Committee, Task Force Committee, must employ experts with a very clear mandate to explain to Kenyans what Building Bridges Initiative means, what it intends to achieve, why it was formed, so that Kenyans can now start understanding what building. Today you go to the streets. I like going to the streets kwa zile bunge, nikishavaa tu kofe yangu na kapo na nyamaza, najifanya hapo mimi ni mjinga. Nasikia vile watu wanapiga siasa pale City Hall. Kama niko Kisumu, you know there's these famous ones in town. You just go there and listen to them. Most people don't even know what BBI is. Why? Because of the failure of the Building Bridges Initiative team. And because of that failure, it's easier for the Deputy President and his allies to advance their own narrative, which is not about the handshake and the BBI. So personally, I think Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga have lost the narrative of the handshake and the BBI to William Ruto and his allies. I don't know what they can do to regain that narrative. I don't know what you think. If you have a different idea, kindly let me know in a comment section. And to the subscribers, I want to continue. Thank you guys for your continued support. And if you're bumping on this video for the first time, just straight away click the subscribe button down here so that next time we produce a video like this one, you get notified. Thank you guys, and please, may you have a good day.